Here are 10 pieces of evidence that alternate realities exist. Number 1 is the double slit experiment. The double slit experiment was set up to fire electrons at a piece of material with 2 slits in it to see how they impacted the wall behind the material. What the researchers discovered was that instead of producing 2 slit marks on the wall behind the sheet, it produced a wave-like pattern. So instead of acting like particles, the electrons seemed to act like waves, interfering with each other even when only one was fired at a time. Stranger still is that when they added a camera to see which slit individual electrons were going through, suddenly they started acting more like particles, producing only 2 slit-like shapes on the wall. This observation suggested that the electrons were aware that they were being observed. The electrons are actually existing in multiple places at once in what's known as superposition, which in of itself proves that A, we don't know as much about the universe as we thought we knew, and B, it's possible that a number of things exist in multiple places, i.e. different realities. Number 2 are unexplained artifacts. There have been many artifacts found over time in archaeological dig sites that, based on carbon dating, should not have existed during that time. Ruins of old civilizations, for example, have been found dating back to a time when human life was said to not exist, such as the London hammer found in the 1930s but belonging to a time over 500 million years ago. There was also the Antikythera mechanism, known as the first analog computer made of bronze gears dating back to around 100 to 150 BCE. Nobody seems to be able to explain how these artifacts were developed in societies that lacked such advanced technological knowledge, leading many to believe that they may have slipped through a parallel universe into ours. Number 3 are repeating universes. There are many who claim that the Big Bang itself could be proof that there are other worlds. One theory suggests that the Big Bang Theory was so powerful, it created, along with the universe and everything in it, something called the eternal return. The eternal return suggests that our universe is bound to repeat itself over and over again. If this were so, it could also mean that there may be an infinite number of parallel universes which could contain a world exactly like ours, with the same people, stories, and history, though it could also differ ever so slightly. An infinite number of universes with an infinite number of variables. For example, you might have brown eyes in this world, but in another world, everything about you would be the same, except that you would have blue eyes instead. Number 4 is supernatural activity. Throughout the years, there have been many supposed sightings of ghosts and other paranormal activity. But while many think that this is evidence of an afterlife and that the supernatural beings are actually deceased people from the past, others believe that they might actually be living beings from a parallel universe. Ghosts may actually be a vision through breaches between planes and into alternate realities and timelines that exist almost in unison with ours. The spectral humans that so many have claimed to have witnessed might actually be flickering into our world from theirs. And by that same logic, you might also be occurring on their side too. Who knows, you might actually be appearing as a ghost to someone in another reality. Another explanation for ghostly apparitions could be that there are humans that live alongside us but exist in a realm that we can't actually perceive with our senses. Number 5 is the 4th dimension. Our current understanding of the universe as it is exists through our perception of the 3 dimensions we exist in: length, width, and height. But we're actually able to get glimpses into the 4th dimension from time to time. With a 4th dimension in existence, that suggests that there may be a 5th or even a 6th. The 4th dimension is only theoretically known to exist, and is something that only a few mathematicians and physicists can fully comprehend. While some mystics call the 4th dimension a spiritual plane, a place where energy is self-aware and conscious in many ways, scientists have presented presented many ideas using quantum theories about this. They say that breaching the fourth dimension barrier would essentially be traveling through time and landing on what can only be described as an alternate Earth. Whatever the parameters are for existence in dimensions beyond our own, if we were ever able to experience them, it will change how we view reality forever. Number 6 is the Large Hadron Collider. The Large Hadron Collider is the largest and most powerful particle accelerator built by the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or CERN. Located in Switzerland, there are many speculations and conspiracy theories around what this ultra-powerful machine is actually being used for. Aside from studying microscopic particle collisions at 1/3 the speed of light and proving the existence of the Higgs boson or the God particle, they've been discovering more and more evidence to prove the existence of alternate worlds. And much of this has to do with gravity. The force of gravity that blankets our Earth and keeps us in rotation with the sun is actually a weaker force than that of a fridge magnet that you put on your fridge. Through studies conducted with the Large Hadron Collider, there is an idea that the force of gravity on our world is quite weak because the gravitons that conduct its power are spread out throughout universes parallel to our own. Through the creation of microscopic black holes in the collider, the gravitons in our universe could leak through into the next, providing convincing evidence of extra dimensions or universes. Number 7 are dreams. Despite science being able to explain numerous things, we are not that much closer to understanding how our brains work. Aside from pinpointing which location on the brain a thought or action comes from, there's still so much that is unknown. One of these unknown phenomenons are dreams. No one truly knows what dreams actually are, with theories suggesting that they're the brain's way of filing away memories or shutting down to deal with physical or mental stress. However, some scientists suggest that once in REM sleep, it's the closest we'll ever get to an alternate world. The ability to travel through time and space in your dreams may hint towards what the experience in another plane of existence would be like. Whether it's a lucid dream or just a regular one, the thought of being able to glance straight into an alternate world and experience things you wouldn't normally go through while awake is truly fascinating. Number 8 is the visitor from Taured. A man arrived at the Tokyo International Airport back in 1954 with everything that he needed: his wallet, tickets, passport, everything. However, the passport that he carried brought him some trouble. Claiming to be from a place called Taured, this Caucasian man insisted that none of his papers were fake, showing his driver's license and bank statements. He even stated that Taured was a European country with thousands of years of history. None of the institutions listed in his statements or credentials could vouch for this man's existence, let alone his country of origin. When shown a map, the man became aggravated, insisting that where the country of Andorra was shown, Taured should be. The man was taken to a hotel near the airport and was placed under constant supervision while the police launched a proper investigation. But that is when things got really weird, when the man disappeared from his guarded hotel room along with his credentials, which were kept in airport security. Number 9 is Lina Garcia Gordo. On July 16th, 2008, 41-year-old Lina woke up to find her bed sheets were different than the one she had laid on the night before. Shrugging it off, she went to work, using the routes that she had been using for the past 7 years and walking through the office like she had done normally on a daily basis. But when she got to what she believed was her office, her name was replaced on the door. Verifying that she was on the right floor, Lina realized that none of her co-workers looked familiar. It was as if she had woken up and landed on a different planet other than her own. She was even dating a man that she knew of as her ex, and the man that she remembered dating for the last 4 months didn't actually exist anymore. While some claim this to be a lapse in memory, many others believe her story to be solid proof of a parallel universe, where others are living their lives right beside ours. And number 10 is alter vu in the Mandela effect. Nearly everyone has experienced déjà vu, but what's even more peculiar is alter vu, when someone remembers a completely different past altogether, like having a memory of a blue bike when in reality, the very same bike has actually always been red. There's also déjà vu, which is the feeling almost like a premonition that you know what's about to happen next. But one of the biggest pieces of evidence is something called the Mandela effect. This is the psychological phenomenon in which a person recalls a memory that did not actually occur. Or did it? The best example of this is how many people remember the lovable bears from their childhood as the Berenstain Bears, when in reality they were always the Berenstain Bears. In fact, no records have ever existed of the books ever being called the Berenstain Bears. After this video, search on YouTube the Berenstain Bear Parallel Universe. Your mind is going to be blown. Number 10 is the Roswell time travel incident. Much has been written about the Roswell crash of 1947, where an alleged alien spacecraft crash-landed in Roswell, New Mexico. The US government then quickly removed the bodies and aircraft, but not before a number of locals and low-level officials saw what happened. But one interpretation of Roswell is that it wasn't an alien craft, but instead a failed time travel attempt from the future. Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso claimed to be involved in researching the bodies as well as the debris found that day. He stated on record that the bodies were probably genetically engineered to withstand both space travel and moving throughout time. The Roswell incident can then be reinterpreted not as an alien visitation, but as a probe from the far-flung distant human future. One which perhaps wanted to pass on a warning about what was ahead for our species. Number 9 is the Iranian time viewer. In 2013, an Iranian businessman called Ali Rezigi claimed to have built a time machine which was capable of predicting the next 5 to 8 years of a person's life. Rezigi claimed that his working prototype was the first of its kind, and that it could change humanity's destiny, allowing it to negotiate future dangers before they occurred. However, the archaic time machine, as it came to be called, has so far never been released. Rezigi claims that it's because of intellectual property issues with China. Without stringent laws to stop companies from mass manufacturing other people's ideas, China would be able to mass produce the device if it saw a prototype. Rezigi claims that while China and the United States continue their attempts to develop their own time travel machines, that his will remain safely hidden until it is truly needed. Number 8 is the Chronovisor. Another device which allowed users to see into the future was known as the Chronovisor. Designed by Italian priest and scientist Pellegrino Ernetti, who died in 1994, the Chronovisor was an extension of the work carried out by another priest in the 1960s called Francois Brune. Descriptions of the Chronovisor describe it as a cathode ray tube, which was found inside televisions of the time, and a viewing screen. Levers and buttons allowed the user to select any time or place in history and view what happened. The Chronovisor supposedly worked by decoding the electromagnetic radiation left behind by previous events. Conspiracy theorists believe that the machine was taken by the Illuminati and is now used for an unknown sinister purpose. Number 7 are messages from a time traveler. John Titor was an online bulletin board user in the early 2000s who claimed to be a time traveler sent from the year 2036. He claimed to be hopping between parallel worlds and times and made predictions about an upcoming nuclear war. In his posts, Titor described what the world would be like after the conflict, describing how the United States would break up into 5 smaller nations and that the world would be devastated by the war. As Titor described himself growing up in the aftermath and joining a shotgun infantry unit in Florida for 4 years, 20 years later he would travel back in time to avert the catastrophe. Titer's communications abruptly ended, and some believe this is because he succeeded in his mission to stop a cataclysmic war from happening. However, others believe that he was silenced. Number 6 is Baron Trump. One fascinating time travel conspiracy that exists right now is that a book published in the 19th century contains information about Donald Trump's son, Baron. The book is called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and was attributed to a 19th century lawyer named Ingersoll Lockwood, but many believe that it could only have been written by a time traveler from the future. The lead character in the book is called Baron, just like President Trump's son, though with a different spelling. In the book, Baron Trump is inspired by a man named Don, who is referred to as the Master of all Masters, who goes through a portal which leads to Russia and other places. Lockwood also wrote a pamphlet called The Last President, and many believe these are coded messages from a time traveler to those living in the current year. Number 5 is Rudolph Fentz. An urban legend tells the tale of a time traveler named Rudolph Fentz, but many believe that the legend is true and has since been covered up. As the story goes, it's 1951 and Rudolph, a man in his 20s, appears confused and walks out into New York traffic and is run down. Tragically, he dies, but witnesses are perplexed by his appearance. He's dressed in 19th century clothing. Several items are found in his possession, including old banknotes and a letter dated 1876. An investigating police officer uses Rudolph's possessions to identify him as a man who disappeared in 1876 in that area. Somehow, he had traveled through time. In 1951, a short story with the same plot was published. Conspiracy theorists believe that this was an attempt by authorities to discredit definitive proof that time travel is real. Number 4 is a time slip. One time travel conspiracy theory describes how an entire passenger jet vanished. The case relates to a flight during March of 1975. As the 727 aircraft approached Miami International Airport, it completely disappeared from all airports' radar. All attempts to contact the plane failed. Assuming the flight was lost, ground control crews were sent out to look for crash debris or to look to the sky to see if the plane was still approaching. 10 minutes later, the plane suddenly reappeared on the airport's radar and could be seen in the sky. However, when the plane landed, the passengers' watches were 10 minutes behind. Some believe that the plane went through what's known as a time slip and traveled 10 minutes into the future. Though federal teams investigated, the incident was kept quiet other than a short report in a local newspaper. Number 3 is Gray's Sports Almanac. There's a time travel conspiracy theory which is eerily close to a plot point in Back to the Future 2. In the film, Marty McFly travels to the distant future of 2015 and buys Gray's Sports Almanac so that he can go back to 1985 and place bets knowing the outcome. In 2017, however, a number of strange bets were placed on World Series games which won a mystery gambler $14 million. The run of placed bets was so unlikely that it's almost as if the gambler already knew the outcome. This bizarre turn of events has led many to theorize that the gambler either came from the future to make a quick buck or somehow gleaned information from future events before placing the bets. Number 2 is the Rendlesham Forest incident. The Rendlesham Forest incident is a famous UFO encounter from 1980, but some believe that time travel may have also been involved. The events took place when Royal Air Force personnel investigated strange lights in Rendlesham Forest near an Air Force base in England. They encountered a strange unidentified craft which had landed in the remote location. It was covered in unusual hieroglyphs and symbols. It then took off in the middle of the night. Some form of time dilation then occurred, and servicemen's watches were out of sync. Following this, one of the men, a Sergeant Jim Peniston, said that he received mental images of ones and zeros. These were later decoded by experts as a binary message, leading them to conclude that the craft was actually a time travel probe from the year 8100. It's believed that it was sent here to explore humanity's past. And number 1 is Ettore Majorana. A scientist named Ettore Majorana mysteriously vanished, and there's proof that he may have traveled into the future. Majorana was working on neutrino particles at the time. Some of his theories stated that some particles could travel through time, and many since have suggested that neutrinos could have been used in this manner. On March 27, 1938, Majorana was on a ship sailing from the Italian city of Palermo to Naples. When the ship docked, he had disappeared. Some thought that he had been killed or even kidnapped by people interested in his work, but a photo taken in 1955 proves that he was alive in Argentina. He looked the same age, and a witness claimed to have met Majorana, who told him that he'd made a huge scientific breakthrough. Many believe this breakthrough was the ability to travel through time itself. Number 1 is the Charlie Chaplin Time Traveler. In 1928, Charlie Chaplin's film The Circus premiered at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, California. The event was of course filmed, and decades later was featured as bonus material on the DVD version of the movie. However, the sharp eyes of some noticed something very odd in one clip from the movie. In a crowd of people outside the theater, there's a woman in the background who appears to be holding what looks like a mobile phone up to her ear. Now keep in mind that the mobile phone was not invented until 1973. Some people have developed a simple solution, that clearly this was an old-fashioned hearing aid. However, theorists argue that if that were so, why would she be using it in a noisy crowd of people? Instead, they offer a different explanation, that she might actually be a time traveler attempting to see the famous Charlie Chaplin in person. Despite all of the scrutiny over this clip online, the woman's identity was never discovered. Number 2 is stock trading from the future. In 2003, a man named Andrew Carlson seemed to come out of nowhere to make a series of extremely high-risk stock trades. After executing a total of 120 trades, he netted $350 million, an unprecedented amount for even the most seasoned stock trader, especially in such a short amount of time. People began to find out about this and were absolutely baffled as to how he did it, so much so that people actually began attributing it to insider trading. This drew a lot of attention, and the police actually ended up arresting Carlson on that assumption. However, Carlson denied the accusation, instead offering what he adamantly claimed to be the truth, that he was from the future. Openly admitting to being a time traveler from the year 2256 seemed to be a cheap cop-out, or for that matter, an insane one, but given his lack of experience in trading and the lack of apparent information available to him, it didn't make sense that he would be able to make such trades. People to this day are still baffled as to how he did this, which has led many to believe that he was, in fact, from the future. Number 3 is the time-traveling air marshal. Sir Robert Victor Goddard was a respected air marshal in the Royal Air Force in 1935. Considered a highly intelligent and trustworthy man, it came as a shock to many when he openly claimed that he had accidentally traveled through time. While flying his plane near Edinburgh, Scotland, Goddard was caught in a rainstorm that he claims suddenly changed to sunlight. The airstrip that he had taken off from changed from being run down to what he described as a fully functioning airfield with men in blue uniforms working on yellow planes. He claims that the rain suddenly returned, and he then arrived back at the base, where he was laughed at upon telling his story to his peers. Now, this story sounded like the ramblings of a confused man to many for years. That was until just 4 years later, when that same airfield was fully restored, complete with yellow planes and men working in blue uniforms. Number 4 is the tiny Swiss watch in an ancient tomb. In December of 2008, the 400-year-old tomb of Sea King was discovered in the Shaanxi County of China. However, upon inspecting the outside of the coffin, archaeologists discovered something very odd. Encased in centuries-old dirt was a tiny piece of golden metal that was in the shape of what appeared to be a wristwatch. Engraved on the back of the timepiece was the word Swiss, with the time frozen at 10:06. How is it possible that a tomb sealed for 400 years, dating all the way back to the Ming Dynasty, had come to hold an artifact that could have only been created after the establishment of present-day Switzerland? Perhaps out of fear or sheer skepticism, some have called this out as a hoax, or for that matter, Photoshop. However, those who believe state that this is proof that time travel exists. Number 5 is the modern man. In the early 1940s, the South Forks Bridge reopened in Goldbridge, British Columbia. Many photos were taken of the event to help commemorate it. However, one photo stood out from the rest, one that has been scrutinized for decades. This photo appeared on the Virtual Museum of Canada's website and quickly made its way to a number of time travel and conspiracy theorist websites. It depicts a man in a t-shirt with a printed logo on it, as well as sunglasses, neither of which existed at the time, making it impossible for them to exist in the 1940s. But in addition, what's even more shocking is that if you look closely, the man appears to be holding a modern-day DSLR camera. Now, while researchers claim that he's simply wearing a sweater with an emblem sewn on it, as well as perhaps custom-made sunglasses, the appearance of the camera in his hand remains a baffling mystery to all. Number 6 is a cell phone in 1938. In 2013, a black and white video from 1938 surfaced of a group of women walking away from a building that they had just exited. The video was posted on YouTube after the uploader noticed something very peculiar with one of the clips. One of the girls appears to be on a cell phone. Again, the first cell phone call did not occur until April 3rd, 1973, so this technology simply just did not exist at the time. While a few explanations have been given since the upload, recently an individual has come forward claiming that the woman in the clip is in fact their great-grandmother and that this is a cell phone, but it's a pre-war prototype developed by a communications factory. The problem with this explanation, however, is that the phone appears to be far too small for the time, as even the very first cell phone that was ever created was absolutely massive. Theorists claim that this recent explanation is nonsense, further proving some sort of a cover-up. Number 7 is the Philadelphia experiment. On October 28, 1943, the United States Naval Military performed an operation called the Philadelphia experiment, which many believe to this day is the first time that time travel was performed under controlled conditions. The purpose of this venture was to make the USS Eldridge completely invisible to radar, effectively cloaking it by merging the fields of electromagnetism and gravity into one field. However, upon executing the experiment, people claim that the ship vanished from sight in an instant, only to reappear from its time warp with an entire crew missing. Upon coming out, this story was immediately denied by the US Navy, claiming that it never happened, establishing it as a hoax. However, theorists claim that this, also known as Project Rainbow, did in fact happen, and that this is just another conspiracy swept under the rug by the US government. Number 8 is the Montauk experiment. The Philadelphia experiment was not the only time the United States government has been accused of covering up time travel operations. The Montauk experiment originated with the account of a man named Preston Nichols, who claimed to have recovered repressed memories of his own involvement in the program. The program was created with the purpose of exotic research in fields such as time travel, teleportation, mind control, and contact with alien life. It's believed that following the developments of the successful 1943 Philadelphia experiment, the government began to research other fields in addition to time travel, all under this program. Interestingly, the Netflix series Stranger Things was allegedly inspired by the Montauk Project, and at one time, Montauk being used as its working title. But of course, despite the popular belief that this occurred, the government denies it entirely. Number 9 is the Large Hadron Collider. The Large Hadron Collider's existence is fact, which sits nearly 175 meters beneath Switzerland. But it's on this list for a different reason than the rest. It is the largest and most complex machine ever built, with the purpose to allow physicists to test different predictions. In particular, to test the different theories of particle physics, high energy physics, and to answer the unsolved questions of physics, with the aim of advancing human understanding of physical laws. But there is talk that scientists have discovered something else, the Higgs singlet, a particle capable of bouncing around through time. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because it's related to the Higgs boson, also known as the God particle, which has already been discovered and can only be created using this machine. Academics have already began theorizing that this could be the one true beginning stage of time travel. And number 10 is the time-traveling boxing fan. A clip from a Mike Tyson 1995 boxing match has become one of the most controversial clips on the internet. This clip appears to show a spectator standing in the front row using a smartphone to record Mike Tyson battling it out with Peter McNeely in the ring. The object looks just like a cell phone, which would make perfect sense if it weren't for the fact that the first cell phone cameras were not sold until 2000. Now, some claim that this is simply an early digital camera. However, theorists state a valid point when it comes to the device. If you look closely, the device is vertical, and as we all know, digital photos are almost always taken horizontally, and the vertical photo is almost exclusive to the mobile phone. People have compared this camera to multiple early cameras at the time, but still no one can offer a definitive explanation for this clip, and it continues to baffle all of those who see it. Number 10 is that it did exist. One of the biggest pieces of evidence for the existence of the Illuminati is the fact that they absolutely did, in fact, exist many years ago. Their founder, Adam Weishaupt, a German philosopher, established the Bavarian Illuminati on May 1st, 1776. The secret society opposed things like superstition, restriction of knowledge, abuse of power, and religious influence over public life. Their goal was to control without dominating and end injustice. And like other organizations such as the Freemasons, the Bavarian Illuminati were declared illegal by royalty and were hunted down, though many claim they simply went into hiding and that they've been influencing events ever since, including the French and American revolutions. So the question isn't really does the Illuminati exist, but rather do they still exist? Number 9 are Illuminati skeptics. Here's something to consider. What if the Illuminati are hiding themselves by posing as skeptics who actively debunk theories about their own existence? There are plenty of people who feel that a shadowy group of geniuses who are covertly controlling how the world operates while awaiting their moment to fully take over the planet simply cannot exist. But there are also a number of people who are eagerly trying to disprove the cult's existence. Perhaps too eagerly. Could it be possible that the Illuminati have placed trusted individuals in positions where they can report back to just how close people are getting to the truth, while simultaneously spreading disinformation about how silly the conspiracy theorists are? Well, perhaps, or maybe they just want us to believe that. Number 8 is militarizing police. Have you ever noticed that local law enforcement agencies seem to be more heavily armed than ever? Why on earth would a small town sheriff's deputy need quick access to machine guns, drones, armored vehicles, or grenade launchers? Well, if you happen to buy into the beliefs of many conspiracy theorists, all of that is just more evidence to prove the existence of the Illuminati's sinister agenda. Militarizing local police today will mean that when the day comes that they're needed to keep people in line as the New World Order takes over, they will have the weapons needed. All of the new gadgets meant to keep us safe could soon be turned against us if the theories about the secret society are true. And all of the evidence is already in the hands of police. Number 7 is the introduction of the euro. One of the things that the New World Order, the single global government that will be put in place soon after the Illuminati stops being a secret society and officially reveals itself to the world, wants, is a universal currency that every country on the planet will utilize instead of their own individual currency. With a one world currency, the Illuminati can control economies more easily and reward certain nations for causing less trouble than others. In order to test how a one-world currency would work, conspiracy theorists suggest that on January 1st, 1999, the organization implemented the euro dollar, a European currency that replaced the money in the pockets of 300 million people, as well as transformed how businesses operated across the continent. We can consider this a successful test of what the Illuminati will one day bring to the world. Number 6 is Washington, D.C.'s layout. If you're looking for signs that the Illuminati exist and happen to have a map of Washington, D.C., then taking a look at the area north of the White House might reveal what you seek. When the city's layout was designed, a pattern was purposefully put into it using 5 streets: Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and K. That pattern being an inverted pentagram that points directly at the White House. Of course, pointing out that Vermont and Connecticut avenues don't stretch south far enough to form the bottom point properly will not get you anywhere if you decide to argue with Illuminati ousters, as they will reveal how the map has been changed by Illuminati members in government so that they won't be found out. Number 5 are symbols on US money. In many ways, money runs the world. So obviously, if there's a secret society pulling the world's strings in an effort to maintain control, then the almighty dollar must be at the root of the plot. This idea is the reason that so many point to the symbols on American currency as proof that the Illuminati exists, or at the very least, proof of their sinister plan. The floating pyramid with the all-seeing eye on the American $1 bill shows the power and ever-watchfulness of the group. Plus, if you look closely at the bottom of the pyramid, you'll see Roman numerals, which is the number 1776. Of course, 1776 was the year that the Illuminati was formed. Could it be a coincidence or something more? Number 4 is H.G. Wells called it. As a genius author, H.G. Wells was a well-respected man, and his work has been essentially worshipped by millions of people around the world. His works include a number of predictions, and though he wasn't a self-described psychic, more predictions this Victorian science fiction writer put out there came true than the ones Nostradamus made. Wells accurately predicted the development of nuclear weapons, email, genetic engineering, and even man setting foot on the moon, and he died long before any of those things actually happened. But possibly the most unsettling of his theories were that there will be a single global government and that a secret society will be controlling the future of humankind from the shadows. Could it be that this new world order is coming soon? Only time will tell. Number 3 are celebrity hand gestures. The more famous a person is, the more power that they can wield, which draws the investigative eye of conspiracy theorists to them. But what if I told you that dozens or even hundreds of celebrities have covertly saluted their Illuminati brothers and sisters in photo shoots, music videos, and television appearances, and you probably haven't even noticed? Whenever you see big stars making the OK symbol with their thumb and forefinger and holding it up to their eye, you probably think that they're just trying to do something fun with their hands. But as it turns out, they may be saluting the symbol representing 666, the number of the beast. And that diamond shape that big names like Beyonce and Jay-Z make while staring into a camera, well, that's actually the Illuminati triangle, and it's a salute to them. Number 2 is the all-seeing eye is everywhere. Though the Eye of Providence, better known by most as the all-seeing eye, used to be considered a religious symbol depicting God watching over humanity and the universe, many believe that it is now a symbol of the Illuminati. Evidence of this is that the image of the eye, which is usually surrounded by rays of light inside the triangle, appears in a number of places that are not part of the Christian faith at all. It can be found on money engraved on gates, in logos of corporations, in imagery hanging in the halls of world leaders, and even the reverse side of the Great Seal of the United States. Today, the symbol is more closely associated with the shadowy observers, signifying control, surveillance, and a power the elite have over the weak, and it is everywhere. And number 1, there have been similar secret societies. A number of exclusive organizations or secret societies exist in this day and age, many of them hundreds of years old, like the Freemasons or the Skull and Bones. These and many others have very secret rituals, words, and even gestures that they can use to identify another in a group. So if they can keep those a secret, how hard would it really be to keep an entire club a secret? If the Illuminati do still exist, it's definitely possible that the rules given to members when joining are insanely strict and include never mentioning that the organization exists, when in reality they're off planning how to institute a new world order to rule everything, including you. Number 10 is the end of religion. Even if you do not believe that the Illuminati is still in existence today, what is indisputable is that this group really did exist at one point in time. Once known as the Bavarian Illuminati, this secret society operated out of the south of Germany during the Enlightenment era. It was founded in 1776, and its goals were to counter superstition as well as spiritual and religious doctrines. Though this group was outlawed by the Bavarian leader Charles Theodore in the late 1700s, many believe that the Bavarian Illuminati simply went underground to survive. Today, even in the 21st century, there are whispers and rumors about the Illuminati, and that its alleged desire to wipe out religion is very much still alive. Some have suggested that the Bavarian Illuminati is controlling media as well as popular dialogue in an effort to destroy any spiritual group with influence once and for all. Number 9 is the disparity theory. The disparity theory is an idea that the Illuminati wants to maintain the divide between the super rich and everyone else by manipulating marketplaces so that people are kept poor. However, they can only do this if we are unwitting players in their game. Sophisticated financial systems have grown out of early banking technologies. It's been suggested that these systems allow us to believe that we are in control over our finances. When we use a banking app or look at our cryptocurrency wallets, we have the illusion that our finances are at our fingertips, working for us. But if some theories about the Illuminati are to be believed, this is only what they want us to think. The truth is that they hold all the cards, they control stock prices, and decide which economies grow and crash. And they do this to ensure that they always remain prosperous, while others do not. Number 8 is suppressing technology. It's easy to discount theories about the Illuminati. After all, some of them seem preposterous at first glance. However, when legitimate people come forward with unnerving assertions that they have encountered the Illuminati and know exactly what they're doing, the possibility that there's something to these stories increases. Take for example Paul Hellyer, who was the Canadian Minister of Defense from 1963 until 67. He had access to the world's elite at a transformative time for humanity culturally. Not only did he later confirm that he had dealings with the Illuminati, but he claims that they already run the world. Hellyer states that they already have the technology to reverse climate change, but are suppressing the technology until they reach their obscure goals. Most unsettling of all, he believes that this technology is of extraterrestrial origin. Number 7 is the space delusion. Flat earthers argue that all the space footage we have seen was faked to persuade the public that the Earth really is a round planet. Others suggest, however, that the Illuminati themselves are to blame for these alleged fake images. The theory goes that the world really is a round planet, but that we are unable to leave its confines for some reason. Various perspectives offer different explanations for this. Some believe that the Illuminati have had contact with alien species who have told us that we are not allowed to explore the space around us. Humanity would be destroyed if it broke this embargo, so instead of panicking the general population, those in charge of the Illuminati have put their resources into faking space footage to make us think that we have already explored the solar system. Number 6 is the Illuminati music industry. There are many songs that mark important milestones in all of our lives. They can pick us up when we're down and they can inspire us to do better. But what if I told you that much of the music was engineered to manipulate you? That's exactly what some researchers into the Illuminati believe. They suggest that the entire music industry was infiltrated during the 20th century as it was seen as a means to control people. Musicians and their music often explore new ideas and define new norms for us culturally. Everything from what we wear down to our language that we use. It's all heavily affected by pop culture. Stars such as Jay-Z, Madonna, Lady Gaga, and Kanye West have been accused of being stooges for the Illuminati, pushing the messages the secret society wants us to buy into. And what do? Lap it up like good little followers. Number 5 is the divide. Identity politics has become increasingly popular in recent years. Regardless of how you feel about this, there's no doubt that following political agendas based along group lines has had significant influence on our debates about free expression, privilege, and cancel culture. Some believe that the Illuminati has seeded these ideas in order to manipulate the divide felt between different human groups. Depending on which theorist you listen to, this is being done in one of two ways. The first theory is that the Illuminati wants us to be divided so that we cannot rise up against them. By fueling group divisions, this will weaken humanity's resolve. A counter theory to this is that the Illuminati wants to create a global, one-world government, and in order to do this, humanity needs to abandon its rich, diverse identity forever. Number 4 are controlled cataclysms. It's been suggested that the Illuminati possesses technology far in advance of what is currently available. In fact, what the Illuminati has developed behind closed doors makes the most sophisticated military equipment in the world look like something out of the Stone Age. Some of that technology can be used to create cataclysmic events, such as hurricanes and floods, but the darkest interpretation is that when a natural global cataclysm occurs, the Illuminati uses this technology so that just enough of humanity survives in order to fulfill its goals. For example, there's increasing evidence that there was a huge flood over 10,000 years ago, and some now believe the Illuminati were around even back then and could have prevented millions from dying. Instead, they stood back and allowed humanity to be pushed to the brink. The question is, will that happen again? Number 3 is the devil's trick. It's often been said that the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was persuading the world that he doesn't exist. The same can be said about the Illuminati. Think about all the negative articles and posts that you see about such claims. They're all designed to belittle anyone who dares consider the possibility that the world's elites get together to shape humanity's future. In order to avoid scrutiny, it could be that the Illuminati made a joke of themselves. They seeded the belief that such an organization could never exist, and that those investigating the Illuminati are only chasing shadows. With the idea of the Illuminati widely discredited and people frightened to even entertain the possibility for fear of being labeled a nut, the Illuminati is able to operate without worrying about people taking them seriously as a threat. Number 2 is the New World Order is here. You can't visit any conspiracy theory forum or website without being bashed over the head with the idea of the NWO and that it's being prepared for us all. Those who believe in such an order argue that the Illuminati is orchestrating the world so that it can create a totally brand new form of government, one which they can use to effectively dominate humanity forever. Plenty of people believe in the New World Order, and they are forever fighting against it by speaking out. But one of the most shocking revelations of all is that the New World Order is already here. The Illuminati may have been pulling a fast one, making us worry about what's coming, when in reality, the terrifying changes are being made right here, right now. Perhaps they've already been made, and the way the world is today is exactly what the Illuminati always wanted. And number 1 is the nature of reality. Humanity has researched for the meaning of life for thousands of years. Many of us as individuals have also gone on spiritual quests to uncover what reality truly is. And yet the answer to this search still remains elusive. Some believe that the Illuminati already knows the truth, and that it's one that they are doing everything that they can to hide from all of us. The reason that they're hiding this important truth is that if it were ever widely believed by the public, there could be massive civil unrest on an unprecedented scale. People would lose a sense of meaning to their lives to such a degree that society would no longer function.
Number 1 is Nwabianism. The Nwabians originated as a black Muslim group in New York City back in the 1970s, founded by Dwight York. Some beliefs held by this religion include, and get ready for this, aborted fetuses are living in the sewers who plan on taking over the world. Another is that Satan has a child that was born in New York City, the mother of which is Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Of course, the Pope was present at birth, and Richard Nixon raised the child. Oh, and they also believe that aliens are coming at some point to take the 144,000 chosen people away in a flying saucer. Ah yes, but as if that wasn't enough, the leader Dwight York got busted for racketeering, child sex slave trafficking, and child molestation. The group has lost many members since that whole debacle, but not all hope is lost. York will be back out of prison and ready to lead his people into the night sky when his 135-year sentence ends April 2122. 135 years? Pfft, that's nothing compared to an eternity of living with the pancake people in the sky. Number 2 is the Prince Philip movement. The Castone people in the Yonanan village in the southern island of Tanna, located in the South Pacific, believe that Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, is a divine being. See, according to ancient tales, the son of a mountain spirit traveled over the seas to a distant land. There he married a powerful lady and in time would return to them, that woman of course being Queen Elizabeth II. Now, it's unclear when this belief first came about, but it's thought to be sometime in the 1950s or 60s, and the belief was only strengthened when the royal couple visited them in 1974. Perhaps the funniest thing is that at the time, Prince Philip actually had no idea about this cult, but has since been informed and has actually sent them a portrait of himself. That seems like it's a little vain there, Prince Philly. I mean, you know these people think that you're a god. You're gonna send them a portrait of yourself? Just that portrait's gonna be like the king of the island. It's gonna be complicated. What you doing, man? Number 3 is the Church of Euthanasia. The Church of Euthanasia is an organization that was started by Chris Corda in 1992 and is devoted to eliminating or at least controlling the growing population of the world. The one single commandment that they hold is, "Thou shalt not procreate." In other words, no boning. On top of this lunacy, there are also the 4 principal pillars of the church, which are suicide, abortion, cannibalism, and sodomy. If that doesn't creep you out, the group is still federally recognized in America as a non-profit educational foundation. Really, America? Is it that easy to start a religion? Because, like, you know, I would like to start the religion of Pelada Awesomeness, which is those people that are bald never have to pay taxes, and I'm the king. So, bow down. Number 4 are the Brethren. Founded in 1971 by American Jimmy T. Roberts, the Brethren exists as a radical group that believes that the only way to prepare for the inevitable end of the world is to purify yourself by giving up all modern comforts and conveniences. You're only allowed to work odd-end jobs as a means to survive. You have to cut off all ties from the outside world, and on top of this, members are not allowed to celebrate in any means. That includes singing and dancing. No singing and dancing, no, because this must be saved for the end of the world and the return of the Savior. Does anybody else picture the members of these groups as just like bearded, long-haired, unwashed people that are just like picking lice off each other? Just being like, he's gonna come one day. Oh yeah, he's gonna come. Number 5 are the Cosmic People of Light Powers. The Cosmic People of Light Powers is a Czech cult that believes in an alien named Ashtar Shirin. No relation to Ed, just for clarity. The group was founded in the 1990s by Ivo A. Benda. According to Benda, extraterrestrial civilizations operate a fleet of spaceships led by the Ashtar Galactic Command, who are orbiting the Earth right now. They closely watch us and are waiting to transport their followers to another dimension. Members of the movement completely distrust modern technologies as well as currency. They also consider mass media to be a tool of oppression and manipulation, and believe in many different variations of extraterrestrials, including that of lizard men. But I say, why stop there? I mean, why not pig women, right? Or duck children, huh? Or those dreaded giraffe hybrid people? I don't know, these people are whacked. Number 6 is Scientology. Oh man, I'm gonna get shot over this one. The Church of Scientology is a cult created by L. Ron Hubbard in 1952 as an outgrowth of his self-help system called Dianetics. The church keeps many of its teachings a secret, stating that mystical teachings may be harmful to unprepared readers, aka sane people. According to Hubbard, in Scientology scriptures, 75 million years ago, an alien dictator named Zenu brought billions of humans to Earth and killed them by placing them in volcanoes while simultaneously detonating bombs. This released theatins which stuck to living humans and are said to still live today and exist as members' spirits or souls. Sounds a little wacko to me, yet half of Hollywood are active members of this church. Yeah, and you guys wonder why I'm still in Toronto and not LA. Number 7 are the Raelians. The Raelian Church was founded in France in the 1970s by Claude Vorhan, or as he's known by his followers, Rael. These followers believe that humans were created by aliens. They also believe that UFOs spawned most religions, and that mind transfer is possible, and also that cloning can lead to reincarnation. Rael used to be a cabaret singer and a race car driver who met one day with an alien named Yahweh, who told him about the origin of mankind, as well as offered him the service of several futuristic sex robots. This cult has many members in the tens of thousands, many of whom are women who must sleep with Rael to help with their cloning efforts, which of course makes 0 sense. Then again, the whole thing makes 0 sense, so why not? Rael boning it up. Number 8 is Family International. Family International was started in 1968 in Huntington Beach, California, founded by Baptist and Christian pastor Dave Berg. The group currently has practicing members all over the world. Berg has proclaimed himself the last anointed prophet before the end of times, and members believe that they are living in the last days before the anarchist takes over for 7 years. So you might be wondering, how do they enjoy their last days on Earth? Well, I'ma tell you. Regardless of marital status, the members are encouraged to have as much sex as they please with each other. Amongst David Berg's teachings is that heterosexual relations is encouraged as a pure and wonderful wonder of God's creation. Of course, female bisexuality is encouraged, but homosexuality is a sin. Oh! Well, isn't that double standard just awfully convenient? Number 9 is the creativity movement. Formerly known as the World Church of the Creator, this cult is an organization that advocates a white-only sovereign. Founded in 1973 by neo-Nazi Ben Klassen in North Carolina, the group rejects all forms of spirituality and religion and is atheistic, which makes it easy to understand why they changed their name. They believe that white, or Caucasian, is a unique and superior race. This group has been behind many violent hate crimes over the years and has gained national media attention in America. This, of course, includes in 1999 when member Nathaniel Smith went on a racially motivated shooting spree, killing 2 people and injuring 9 others. There is no joke to be said there because that guy is just a terrible, terrible person. But I would like to punch him in the dick. And number 10 is the Order of the Solar Temple. Luc Jaurès, a Belgian religious leader and neo-Nazi, reportedly started this group in 1984 in Geneva. They operate as a secret society that claims to be based upon the ideals of the Knights Templar, and their members are global with temples in Quebec, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, and the Caribbean. In 1994, a member's 3-year-old son was murdered after his father identified him as the Antichrist. What then followed was a mass group suicide of members in locations around the world. Today, the French consider the Order of the Solar Temple to be an active criminal organization. Well, it just goes to show you that some people will believe in anything if somebody steps up as a mystical leader. But seriously, let's start that bald religion. I want to be the king! In 1954, L. Ron Hubbard created Scientology, a religion whose devout followers are required to pay thousands of dollars, undergo strange procedures, and sign contracts of secrecy. They believed that 75 million years ago, there was a planet with a human civilization that looked much like 1950s America, with cars and streets and so on. A being named Zenu was their galactic overlord, and before he could be removed from power, he froze all of them, stored them in boxes, and flew them to a prison planet called Tigiak, a lonely rock which we now know today as Earth. The boxes were dropped into volcanoes and then hit with hydrogen bombs. This caused their spirits, called theodins, to fly out, get captured, and endure images of crucifixion and other horrible things being shown to them. Now, every time someone is born, theodins crowd into our bodies and become the root cause of mental illness and fears. It sounds legit. Before he became a crazy cult leader, L. Ron Hubbard was actually a published author of 500 pulp fiction stories and fiction novels from February 1934 until his death in 1986. He holds Guinness World Records for being the most published author in written books, audiobooks of his works, translated editions of his works, and translations of a single book. Much of his early pulp fiction short stories were considered to be entertaining, but his later works were hit with more criticism due to their exaggerated and thin plots. During the mid-1930s, Hubbard wrote several Hollywood movie scripts, but was not named in the movie's credits. After establishing the Church of Scientology in 1952, he returned to writing in 1982, starting with Battlefield Earth, a story that was later turned into a horrible movie produced and starring famous Scientologist John Travolta. In a similar manner to other religious confessions, where you must let your sins be known to receive forgiveness, Scientology conducts what are known as audits. An auditing session involves a subject known as a pre-clear or PC, an auditor, and sometimes the use of a device called an e-meter, which is like a shoddy version of a lie detector. Generally, the auditor will sit in a room with a PC and ask them a series of personal questions, sometimes digging into deeper personal experiences or traumas. This is supposedly done as a form of therapy. When the needle on the meter fluctuates, it might prompt the auditor to ask more about a certain subject. The point of auditing is to extract bad feelings and memories in order to go clear and continue your Scientology training.
Scientology members that have displayed a deep loyalty and willingness to achieve more in the church are often encouraged to join the Sea Organization, also known as Sea Org. The Sea Org is conducted like a military, with ranks and punishments and boot camp-like living quarters, but operates the corporate side of the church, providing maintenance to facilities, earning funds for the church, cooking, and managing employees. The induction process into the Sea Org involves signing an odd contract that pledges your soul to them and says you'll serve for 1 billion years. Members are actually obligated to do this, or they're just flat out denied entry. This means that if you die as a member of Sea Org, your soul, or your reincarnated self, will be expected to continue serving, and this expectation will continue for literally 1 billion years. Since Scientology is so strict on beliefs and maintaining order among its members, being a part of the church can lead to what is known as disconnections in personal relationships. Anyone that the church rules label as a suppressive person, basically a critic or bad influence, must be completely separated from your life. Members who have difficulty disconnecting from relationships are socially isolated by their friends in the church and even threatened, and convinced that disconnection is the best option. In 2014, Sarah Goldberg, a mother of 2 and a 36-year member of the church, was told to disconnect from her son Nick after he became friends with opposers to the church. If she couldn't remove him from her life, she would be shunned, forcing her Scientologist daughter Ashley to disconnect from her. Ultimately, she chose to stay connected to her son, and she was expelled from the church and from her daughter. Though Scientology outright rejects things like psychology and mental illness, its founder and original leader was extremely mentally ill himself. L. Ron Hubbard's most famous work was his 1950 book, Dianetics, basically the Bible of Scientology, but the precursor to this was a manuscript he wrote in 1938 of a story called Excalibur. While Hubbard never published the manuscript, he told extremely sensationalized stories about its effect on those who read it, saying that it could unlock the ability to control and manipulate people. But he wrote it after an anesthetic he received at the dentist caused him to believe that he had died for a total of 8 minutes. In that time, he thought up ideas that would revolutionize everything, ideas that he considered to be more important than the teachings found in the Bible. Hubbard's own son Ronald has claimed that his father was a compulsive liar and mentally ill. Members of Scientology Sea Organization are pressured to not conceive children. If they do, they are required to give up the child for adoption or undergo an abortion. If both options are refused, they will face expulsion from the organization. Being ejected from Sea Org can be extremely difficult for many members who have joined at a young age or who have remained in the group for so long that they don't know anything outside of Sea Org and its operations. Parents who join Scientology or who have children while they're members are instructed on how to raise and what to feed their kids. Some children are raised by other members while their parents work grueling 17 to 20-hour shifts for the church nearly every day. In some cases, kids are turned into spies against their parents by the church to make sure that their moms and dads are obeying the rules. It's only been in recent years that success stories about leaving Scientology have come to light. This is in part due to the fact that Scientology does so much to ensure that you're with them for the long haul, including brainwashing its members into ignoring outside media or fighting back against critics. The other reason that you don't see many people fleeing is because they make it so hard to leave. If someone escapes and refuses to come back to the church, they will send members to track down, threaten, and harass them. A large amount of effort is put into ensuring that ex-members don't speak out against Scientology, with defectors being blackmailed or hit with lawsuits, and they'll slander your reputation around town before you can even try to speak out. This is why, whenever important church members like Leah Remini, Paul Haggis, or Mark Rathburn leave and go public, it should be considered a big deal. The attack the attacker policy declares that Scientology is not a turn the other cheek religion and urges its followers to investigate and take action against anyone who publicly opposes them. Stack that on to the R245, a process in which a person's theoden is separated suddenly from the human body by way of bullet to the head, and it's easy to see why a number of deaths had been linked to the church. Possibly the most famous death associated with Scientology occurred at Fort Harrison Hotel in Clearwater, Florida on December 5th, 1995. This was when 36-year-old Lisa McPherson lost her life to a pulmonary embolism and what a local medical examiner initially called negligent homicide. Though McPherson sought psychiatric help, the church stopped her from getting it. They denied any involvement in her death and later settled in court with McPherson's family for an undisclosed amount. During the 1970s, high-ranking members of Scientology, led by Hubbard, devised a plan to seek out Scientologists to seek employment at many different government agencies and organizations that posed a threat to the church. Officially beginning in November of 1974, Operation Snow White, as it was called, managed to steal and copy important files from 136 government sources in 30 countries with the use of nearly 5,000 undercover agents. Snow White is considered to be one of the biggest infiltrations into guarded United States information ever. The operation ended with the arrests and eventual convictions of 11 high-ranking Scientologists, including Mary Sue Hubbard, L. Ron's wife, on December 6, 1979. Mary Sue received 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for her role, and L. Ron was named as a co-conspirator but was already in hiding, where he remained until his death on January 24th, 1986. Number 1 is the Ship of Theseus paradox. This paradox is also known as the grandfather's axe paradox. Suppose you have a ship made of 100 pieces of wood. Every now and then you replace an old piece of wood with a new piece and you keep the old pieces in a shed. Over the course of many years, you replace all of the old pieces with new pieces of wood, but that's still the same original ship to you, right? Well, the paradox occurs when you consider what happens when you take all of the old pieces of wood and reassemble them. The question then becomes, which is the original ship? And also, why are you building ships in the year 2014, man? What are you, Noah? Number 2 is the omnipotence paradox. This paradox asks, could an omnipotent being limit its own power? Another way to word it is, could God create a stone so heavy that even he couldn't lift it? Now this is paradoxical, because if God does have unlimited power and can do anything, then sure, of course he could create a stone that he couldn't lift. But if that's true and he couldn't lift it, then that's something he can't do, hence the paradox. This is actually one of the most well-known paradoxes in history and has been around since the days of ancient Greece. Number 3 is the Monty Hall paradox. This paradox is loosely based off the old TV game show Let's Make a Deal. Suppose you're on a TV game show and there's 3 doors. Behind one door is a car. Behind the other 2 doors are goats. Now suppose you pick a door, say door number 1, and the host, who knows what's behind each door, opens door number 3, which has a goat behind it, and asks you if you want to switch to door number 2. Now at this point you might be thinking, well, it doesn't matter because they all have a 1 in 3 chance, but therein lies the paradox. Believe it or not, it's actually advantageous for you to switch to door number 2 because it mathematically has a 2 in 3 chance of having a car behind it, which is completely counterintuitive. Now if you're wondering how that works, I don't have the time to mathematically explain it in this video, but just trust me, that's how it is. I think the real question here is what happens when the contestants pick the wrong door? Do they get to keep the goat? Because I mean, that's not so bad. You get unlimited milk, a warm hoof to hold you on cold nights. It's magical. Number 4 is the unexpected hanging paradox. A judge tells a prisoner that he's sentenced to be hanged at noon one weekday in the coming week, but that it'll be a surprise and he won't know until the executioner knocks on his door on the chosen day. The prisoner reflects a bit on his new sentence and concludes that since it's to be a surprise hanging, that it can't happen on Friday because if it hasn't happened by Thursday, there would be only one day left, thus it isn't a surprise. He then continues to reason that the hanging can't be Thursday either because Friday's eliminated, and if it hasn't happened by
by Wednesday, Thursday would not be a surprise. He continues this line of reasoning and concludes that the hanging cannot happen on Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday, and finally decides that the hanging will not happen at all. This is of course until the executioner knocks on his door on Wednesday at noon and everything the judge said came true. The paradoxical nature of this situation is primarily due to the language used and also the fact that if you don't go back and listen to that about 3 times over, you're not going to understand it and be confused as f***. Number 5 is the grandfather paradox. This is one of the most famous paradoxes ever created. Suppose a time traveler goes back in time before his grandfather meets his grandmother. If the time traveler kills his grandfather, that would mean he was never born, but if he was never born, he wouldn't be able to go back and kill his grandfather in the first place. Personally, I'm just really glad that this is a hypothetical and that we can't time travel yet, because going back and changing even the slightest thing can have consequences that will ripple throughout the universe. Eugene, why do I have hair? Your time machine worked, didn't it?
Yeah, I sort of stepped on an ant, so that's why.
Huh. Well, I guess this isn't so bad.
Yeah, except everyone in this universe now eats with their butts. So... sorry.
Number 6 is the barber's paradox. Suppose that there's a town with just one male barber. Now in this town there's a rule that every man must keep himself clean shaven either by shaving himself or going to the barber and having the barber shave him. Using that rule, logic follows that the barber only shaves men who do not shave themselves. The paradox is this: if the barber does not shave himself, he must abide by the rule and shave himself. But if he does that, according to the rule, he will not shave himself. This is a good example of what's called an infinite regression, where the story just goes round and round and gets really drawn out. Kind of like the final seasons of Lost. Number 7 is the Fletcher's paradox. Also known as Zeno's arrow paradox, this paradox challenges what we think we know about motion. It correctly states that in order for motion to occur, an object must change its position. Using an arrow in flight as an example, if you look at any one instant in time, in order for that arrow to be moving, it must either be moving to where it is or where it is not. Now, of course, the arrow cannot move to where it is because it's already there, but it also cannot move to where it is not because in a single instant, no time elapses for it to move there. The conclusion is that in any one instant, no motion is occurring, and if no motion can occur in one instant, no motion can occur in any instant, meaning motion is impossible. This is of course a paradox because we observe things in motion every single day. Number 8 is the Epimenides paradox. Also known as the liar paradox, this is another example of an infinite regression that can be phrased in many ways, but most simply as follows: this statement is false. Now, if the statement that I just said were in fact false, then of course it would be true. But if it were true, then that would make it false, which of course would again make it true. But then that would make it false, and it's true. What were we talking about? Number 9 is the Sorites paradox. Also known as the paradox of the heap, this paradox is deceptively simple. Suppose you have a heap of sand composed of 1 million individual grains. If you remove a single grain, it's still a heap of sand. Therefore, that argument must hold true for any such number of grains. Well, if you follow that logic and continue to remove 1 grain of sand at a time until there's only 1 grain remaining, you're left with only one of the following 2 conclusions. Either a heap can be composed of a single grain of sand, or there is no such thing as a heap. I know. And finally, number 10, the Raven paradox. Created by logician Carl Gustav Hempel, this paradox is based off the following 3 statements. Number 1 is all ravens are black. Number 2 is everything that is not black is not a raven. And number 3 is this green thing is an apple and thus not a raven. Now here's what's interesting, because by saying those 3 sentences in that order, it logically follows that the sight of a green apple is somehow evidence supporting the notion that all ravens are black. Now this is of course a paradox because it implies that information has been gained about ravens by simply looking at an apple, which of course makes no sense. Or does it?
Number 10 is surrounded by crocodiles. In February of 2018, 3 British backpackers found themselves in a nightmare situation which became one of the strangest encounters of their lives. They were traveling in an old camper van through the Australian outback when they stopped overnight in northern Queensbury. But during the night, a flash flood occurred, and worse still, the waters were infested with huge crocodiles. One of the more famous crocodiles in the area was known to be 4.5 meters long. As the water poured into their van, they scrambled onto the
rooftop, not daring to try to swim to safety for fear of being eaten alive. Now thankfully they were rescued the next morning. However, locals told them of how lucky they'd been. Just a few months earlier, a 79-year-old woman disappeared without a trace, and most likely they believed that she'd been eaten by a crocodile. Waking up to flash floods and crocodiles all around you kind of makes wanting to get up for school a little easier now, doesn't it? Number 9 are the luggage thieves. Travelers in Paris encountered a crafty pair of luggage thieves who discovered a unique way to steal the contents of their suitcase. Climb inside. One thief would climb inside a suitcase, and the other would place the suitcase inside a bus luggage compartment and then just casually take a seat. While the unsuspecting travelers rode the bus, the thief inside the suitcase would climb out and open everyone else's luggage, stealing what he could. However, imagine not being able to get out of the suitcase. This wasn't worth it. He would then get back into the suitcase, which was rigged to lock and open from the inside, and then at the next stop his accomplice would simply walk off, carrying his partner and loot concealed inside the luggage without a single person knowing. Travelers were of course shocked when the bus driver noticed that one of the pieces of luggage was wriggling around. Both men went to jail, though not inside a suitcase, because that would just be poetic justice. Number 8 is expensive tea. We all know that the British love their tea, but when an English tourist complained about the price of tea in Nepal, she was greeted with, well, what was she greeted with, Matt? What was it? Insults and rocks. Gemma Wilson was 35 at the time and trekking through the Annapurna circuit with her stepson. They stopped at a small tea house in the remote mountains and ordered some black tea. Oh, this is gonna be so relaxing with my stepson. When the shop owner asked her for 150 rupees in return, which is the equivalent of only about $1.40, Gemma complained that this was 100 rupees more expensive than the usual price. When Gemma paid for the tea, she remarked that it was quite expensive and all hell broke loose. Gemma actually recorded the incident on her camera as the shop owner chased her down the side of the mountain, screaming at the top of her lungs, throwing rocks at the tourists, and brandishing a large wooden plank. Okay, yeah, remind me to never haggle when I travel. I'm just gonna pay whatever you want. Okay, don't stone me, please. Number 7 is the other you. Many cultures have stories about doppelgangers, people who look exactly like each other. Now, some of these stories have supernatural aspects to them, but there was nothing supernatural about Neil Douglas's bizarre encounter with a man that looked exactly like him. Neil was traveling from London to Ireland, and when he boarded his plane, he found a man sitting in a seat. Yeah, that coincidental. But hey, when he asked the man to move, they looked at each other and were completely dumbfounded. They looked exactly like each other, even down to the clothes that they were wearing. It was as if they were literally twins. And on top of all that, as it turns out, they were also bizarrely booked into the same hotel in Ireland. So when they got there, they each enjoyed a pint with each other. I'm sure they had a great time. Personally, I'm always talking to myself and the conversation is riveting. Isn't that right, Matt? Yes, it is. You're extra bald today. Thank you. Number 6 is a man's best friend. In 2013, Marco Lavoie was 44 and enjoyed traveling to remote areas and hiking into wilderness. But when he was confronted by a charging bear, the encounter led him into darker territory than he could possibly imagine. When Marco disappeared, 3 months passed, and rescue teams lost all hope that he was still alive. The last that anyone knew, he was with his dog out in the Canadian countryside on a hiking trip. As it turns out, that dog, a German Shepherd, saved his life twice. First, it got between Marco and the bear that attacked, protecting its master. And the second, well, Marco was found starving and malnourished when he was finally rescued, but the dog was nowhere to be seen. I'll leave that up to your mind to connect the dots on that one. Yes, dog for dinner. Number 5 is the slow boat. Lauren Juleff had made a career as a travel writer, but when she stepped onto a boat in Laos, instead of beautiful vistas, she was faced with a creepy encounter. The boat was known as the Slow Boat, and Lauren had been told that despite having to spend 10 hours a day on the boat, that the journey was absolutely breathtaking. The first day went well, and Lauren was captivated by the scenery, but after a night's stay in a bug-infested travel hostel, she was less than prepared for what happened the next day. After boarding the Slow Boat, Lauren tried to catch up on some sleep, and when she awoke, she found that the woman next to her had died. Hey lady, wake up. The fun part was there was nowhere to go, and Lauren had to sit next to the body, watching as the poor woman's bereaved husband cried in grief for hours. Just out of curiosity, who was that travel agent? Just so I can write down to never go to them. Number 4 is a deadly insect. The encounter that Will Hatton had while traveling is enough to put anyone off going into the jungle, but instead it actually became a real turning point in Will's life. He was trekking through the Costa Rican jungle at the time, and at just 19 was looking forward to a career in the Marines when he returned home. But one night while sleeping underneath a mosquito net, some type of insect managed to get inside and bite him several times on the leg. Oh, mosquitoes, Matt, no big deal. What could have possibly happened? No, I said some type of bug, because within 24 hours he was delirious and was suffering from hallucinations and severe pain. He managed to make it to a ranger station and was evacuated to a hospital. Following 2 weeks in intensive care, his leg was amputated, ending his dream of joining the Marines. But since then, Will has remained inspired to travel the world and share his experiences. See, this is why I don't leave the house. There's too many scary things outside. Not just because I'm a hermit. It's nothing to do with that, I promise. Nothing. Number 3 are pigs might fly. If you can't stand kids running up and down the aisles while traveling, imagine having to deal with a 127 kilogram pig. Well, this is exactly what happened to passengers aboard a plane bound for Seattle in 2000. I'm on the plane, whee! In this pre-9/11 era, air travel didn't have the stringent travel policies which are currently in place. So, in a bizarre twist, this allowed one passenger on the plane to be accompanied by a huge pig. Like I said, whee! The owner of the pig had documentation from a doctor which stated that the animal was an essential therapeutic companion and was needed to keep the owner's anxieties at bay. But here's a fun twist. As the plane landed, the pig panicked and attempted to enter the cockpit. It was later revealed that the owners had been given 3 seats in first class for the pig, which was technically registered as a guide dog. Pig dog, da 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 da, pig dog. Number 2 is meeting an extremist. If you're not careful, some strange encounters can be deadly, and that's certainly true of Karen from the Girl Astray travel blog. In one entry, she described a frightening experience while hitchhiking across Turkey. A man in a white truck agreed to drive Karen and her travel companions to their destination. But within minutes, the man proudly announced that he was a Kurdish terrorist fighting for the PKK, also known as the Kurdish Workers' Party. After a few minutes of nervous conversation and awkward silences, the man suddenly pulled the steering wheel of the truck to the left. The truck crashed and Karen was thrown from the vehicle, her body smashing against a post. Karen survived, however did suffer a damaged spine, and to this day still questions if the driver meant to kill her and her companions or not. And number 1 is the wrong place at the wrong time. In 2017, 2 motorists from New York were traveling through a wooded mountain range in West Virginia and encountered a tragic and horrific sight. As they were enjoying the incredible scenery and calm roads, as they turned a corner, they saw a car had crashed against a guardrail and was sitting in the middle of the road. Before the motorists could assist, they watched in utter horror as the driver of the car, a woman named Erica Newsom, pulled a body from the car and then disappeared into the woods. When this was reported to police, they discovered that Erica had actually driven from Florida with the body of her dead daughter in the car, who had passed away 24 hours earlier.